Good evening. Welcome to the 1873 FM radio and TV. Today we are looking at the diaspora and the experiences in procuring services for Zimbabwe. That is products and solutions for Zimbabwe. The story of one person, Miss Joy Mutari. She's based in Portland, Oregon, the U.S. And Mr. Joseph Mudekunye, good afternoon or good evening.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good morning. It's still morning over here. 4 more minutes.
Morning. So this is the story of Miss Mutari. Talk to us about your ordeal. When were you in Zimbabwe last?
June to August of 2019.
Okay, when you arrived in Zimbabwe, what shocked you the most?
How quickly things changed. Because I had been home in 2018 for my cousin's wedding. And fuel, electricity was there, Wi-Fi, we were able to function. I wanted to go back translate that in the following year of 2019. And some of my friends were just saying to me, listen, you should stay where you are because you're supposed to feel. Oh no.
Network. Can you hear her properly? Sorry.
I can hear her, but she's breaking.
She's breaking really, really bad. That I don't know. Maybe
the connection on your side.
Is it on my side?
Yeah, now you're better.
Okay, so where do you want me to start?
Yeah. Breaking. I think when you start talking, that's when it cuts up.
Try again.
Okay, just try again. Try again.
Am I coming in better a little bit?
Yeah, when you're talking consistently, that's when it breaks up.
Okay, so I'll try and speak slow.
All right, yeah, try to speak closer to the mic.
Okay, so I went to home 2018 August, September, and when I was there, I was able to get my work done. I was actually still working, so the internet was working, Wi-Fi. If you just your bundle or your or fuel, all of them are available. So that's what surprised me. What surprised me was how quickly 2019, because I'm in school, so I'm still trying education and still working. So I really need to be able to stay in school, do my that I had done in 2018, and I still want to go home, and I want to have that done at the same time. So when I went home in 2019, I was so surprised that things had changed so quickly.
And with respect to electricity, what was your experience?
What I experienced, what out to me the most is when I went to the Makumbe building, and I was going there with my children's birth certificates, and there was power, there was electricity there, and there was a little kid in front, and she was like, and the little kid was mom, and he said, "Mama, we have electricity," and it was in the middle of the day. The kid was looking at electricity, and I said to myself, this shouldn't be normal. A little kid is growing with that language of Magetsa. You shouldn't have to see Magetsi and be surprised or be excited, because that's not how we grew up. And that's what surprises me, and that's what frustrates me, because the Zimbabwe that I grew up in, that I was afforded, no longer available to the children that are growing up now, or to the teenagers of the Zimbabwe that gave me all the resources that I have now to be successful elsewhere, is not available to the 20-year-old or to the year-olds the same way that it was for me when I was that.
Okay. So how did you respond to the frequent load shedding or unavailability of electricity? What came
Sorry?
to,
Sorry.
I said, what came to your
What?
mind in response to the shortage of electricity?
I figured when you see a light switch work, I expect that I have switch, when I flick it on, it's supposed to work. That is how it has been for me. I've grown up in all areas, right? The rural area where we didn't have electricity and we were fine with the candles, but when it is there and the power lines are there, I expect that when I flick that light, it's going to come on, especially because you have already paid for it. The last time I was home in 2018, my cousin said, Mukango juice. Like, oh, that's all you need to do. You just need to pay the bill. In fact, it was prepaid. So my cousin was like, Aiwa, Mukango, as long as you get as long as you pay the bill, but that isn't the case. You pay the bill, you get electricity for 2 hours, and you get electricity at 10 at night, and then by noon, it's gone. By midnight, it's gone. So frustrating and so disheartening to see families rushing to charge their phones as soon as electricity comes. Everyone gets up and like rushing to make sure that you charge your phone, you charge your power bank, because you need to be able to. So as a country, in order for us to be competitive worldwide, as we have been, you look at the human capital that has produced people that are effective all over the world. In order for us to remain that way, for us to continue to invest in Zimbabwe, we need to be able to equip them the same way we're equipped. That is
Oh,
people are spending time not being able to function, standing in line, waiting. So that really frustrates me in terms of just how we have become in order for us to function effectively and productively.
So when you looked at alternative power supply solutions, how did solar come into your mind?
I live in Oregon, so this has
Yeah.
been, they're very, for lack of a better term, they're very progressive in of environmental and climate justice, environmental justice. So alternative forms of energy at the moment seem to be the way to go. So in terms of either environmental consciousness, I felt that so I feel it's the way to go. It's more reliable. So that's how I started feeling like what was functioning at home. The generators had been the trend. Without fuel, people were also paralyzed and were not able to even power it. So that's how I started feeling, well, it's time to invest in solar.
Okay, and did you find available solutions in Zimbabwe, or you had to leave Zimbabwe to find them?
Solutions were there until things changed. So
Okay.
yeah, so electrocelles had all the equipment that we needed. And in fact, on the Monday where I was supposed to go buy everything, things changed and prices doubled immediately. So it became cost for me to buy anything at home. even though
So
it was a
did you plan to come to South Africa, or you were forced to come to South Africa?
I was forced to go to South Africa, yeah. Because when I was home, I mean, solar panels were there, what, $300 or so. So I had budgeted and I was ready to go. I had everything in place, and then overnight again, it said changed and couldn't go to electricity because, by the way, they had started using the bond note, and stores had doubled the prices from the week. It just took like 2 days, and I found I couldn't afford to buy those things back home as I had planned.
Okay, so you then had to leave Zimbabwe, come to South Africa, and did you know anything about the suppliers of the gadgets you needed to install?
I did. I have family in South Africa. I had asked them, so because I knew I didn't. I had asked friends and family in South Africa to look up places where I could get the equipment that I needed. So that's how I ended up in Joburg and stayed with my sister and started just looking and comparing prices. But I kind of had narrowed down a few places where I could go.
So you were comparing with Zimbabwean prices?
I was now going by my budget, yeah.
All right. And you knew what to buy, the list of the gadgets you needed.
Yeah.
And you then managed to get a company to supply you.
I did.
And what was your experience compared to what you are accustomed to, or what you expect?
Well, I had found a company that I wanted to work with, and it's Zimbabwean owned, so that was even more that was even more appealing to me. So I contacted them. We got in touch. We met. They gave me the equipment I needed, and I went home. And in terms of installation, now we got home. Equipment was it worked for 3-4 days, and it blew up.
So you actually got electricity, then it blew up.
Yeah. So what I had wanted to do was to get the solar panels, to get the inverter, to get the batteries. And so I ended up thinking that probably I'll get the inverter and get the battery, and then have the inverter charge the battery without the panels.
Okay.
Then I would get the panels later. So I got only the inverter, I got the changeover switch, I got the batteries, and then I went back home. And so when it installed, what was supposed to happen was, when we have power through it was supposed to charge the battery, or the battery supposed to charge the inverter, or whichever way. But what we had not accounted for were the power surges. So when ZESA comes in, the inverter was supposed to regulate power, and so that happened. And so the inverter blew up. To a consultant looked at it, and he said, yeah, the power surge was too much, the inverter burned up. So I contacted the supplier again, and then he was gracious enough to say, bring this back. So we brought the inverter back to South Africa. Then he got the new parts for it, then fixed it. And in the meantime, it was rather frustrating for me, because I felt like this was one really big project that I had out of my way. And only to really be back to where we started. I still didn't have electricity, still didn't have the Wi-Fi that I was hoping to get, so still didn't get any schoolwork done as much as I would have liked to. Didn't get any work done because I needed, or if I did get some work done, I would still have to go to town and still go to internet cafes, still go to my friends' offices and still see if I have their equipment there. So it was still frustrating because I felt like it was a big job. I had left home, gone to South Africa, spent some days there, driving around, getting what I needed, go back home, install the equipment, or got burned, send it back to the supplier fixed it. Then it felt like I had to buy a new inverter. Fixing it just cost as much as getting a new inverter.
So when you look back, has it been a pleasant experience or something you'd recommend for somebody? Or you say, I paid the school fees and let me keep it to myself?
I think it's been a learning experience. We grow, and growth is big. So the supplier grew, I grew, everyone has grown from this experience because there were things that we didn't factor in. Yeah, it was a bittersweet experience. Obviously, I love some of our companies. That's part of the reason why I was working with the company that I worked with. I will support my companies for as long as I possibly can. And so it was a pleasant experience doing that. And it's still, do I wish that I invested in it home and everything would have been fine at this point? Yeah. We still don't have electricity, even though I bought the inverter in July last year. We still haven't, we still don't have the equipment. However,
But at what point did you become angry? If ever you became angry to say, hey, I'm out of cash, out of electricity, and I'm still on my own, because at the end of the day, you have spent a lot of money, spent time to come to South Africa. All these costs, when you add them up, and still you end up with no electricity. Didn't you become angry at some stage?
I did become angry at the way I felt like as a customer I was valued. I think I felt like if I felt like if all of my frustration, like you're saying, I spent this money, I traveled, I do all of these things to get this done. I wanted the customer to say, hey, look, sis, I understand where you're coming from. I'm really sorry that this has happened and we're working to fix this together. But there was a lot of blaming going back and forth. And I just felt like I just needed to be understood, exactly, to, like, you're just have someone say, hey, we're fixing it. I mean, there was a point where obviously when the supplier said to me, hey, send this back to me, that was at their own cost, so they didn't charge me for that. And then when I looked at a consultant who had looked at it before, had told me that whatever the circuits that had burned, told me that they were not available in Zimbabwe, but they wouldn't cost that much. So he also said, yeah, these are small pieces, small parts that need to be replaced. But when I sent it back, and when I saw what I thought would be that got burnt up, that protected the entire inverter, that's what the consultant said. He said the pieces that have been burnt, actually, thank goodness they got burnt, because they protect further damage from the inverter. So these ones shouldn't cost too much to fix. But the whole thing ended up being like another 300, almost $300 to fix, which is really the cost of another inverter. So then supplier, look, this is $300. I just get a smaller inverter. You just keep that one and sell it, and then get me a new inverter so that I don't have to at least have one that has been damaged, because I'm already paying you the cost of another inverter. So I
So
would
when
have.
did you become engineer, solar engineer? Because now you seem to know a lot more than a pedestrian customer.
I feel like I learned a lot about. I learned a lot. I haven't become an expert yet, but I know a lot more than I did going. And so yeah, there are certain questions and things that I wish I had asked earlier that I now know. Things about warranties, and which are things that I took for granted. I knew, yes, but I kind of took them for granted, because now it was a question of what is the supplier responsible for? What am I responsible for? So who's responsible for paying for what? Those were the things that we started negotiating after the fact. And those are things that I wish we had negotiated earlier, so I would know exactly where my responsibility lies, where the and that's the other thing. The installer may have some responsibility as well, but the way that they are at home, I know for a fact I cannot go to the installer and say, give me my money back because you did a bad job installing. He's not going to take responsibility, nor is he going to give me my money back, even though I know he may have a case against the installer as well. So those are some things that I now know that I wish I had put in place before.
Okay, so when you compare the prices between the Zimbabwean after the adjustment of prices and South Africa, what was the difference? Was it lower or higher, or if it was lower, by what margin?
It was definitely more affordable. I mean, the fact that you can travel and factor in the price of travel from Zimbabwe to South Africa and still find things more affordable there than if I had gotten them in South Africa. Of course, because I have family over there and because I live over in the United States where I don't get to see my family, obviously the value was more, because for me it wasn't just about going to get the inverter. It was also about going to see my family and also having to have my children meet their relatives, their moms and dads in South Africa, and their brothers and sisters. So the experience was more than just about going to get electricity. It was also about making sure my children know where from their roots are. So in that sense, but still, fiscally, it was a lot more affordable in South Africa than it was back home.
So when you look at the average person who lives in the diaspora, do you think there's a shared understanding about what you went through on this project alone?
Yeah, obviously. As I was saying, that technology is good, because here is South Africa, it's Texas, it's Portland. So this is the diaspora represented over here. So when I was in South Africa, I called you and I said, hey, I'm looking for an inverter. And so that's how I got to know. That's how you got to introduce me to Mr. Ndekunye. So we got connected, or based on the fact that I'm in there looking for inverter.
So if part of this show, we know we had planned for it, but we wanted just to do a 30-minute segment just to introduce these shared experiences. Because sometimes we don't tell the stories, and if we tell them one-on-one, and others may not benefit from other people's experiences. So for this first part of it, do you have anything that you would like people to take home?
Definitely, you're right. We have to share our story. As the Zimbabwean diaspora, we are one of the most united diasporas. In fact, while I was here in Portland, I was listening to a gentleman behind me. And he was just talking to one of his friends, and he said he'd been all over the world, and one of the most powerful and the most educated diasporas he's come across are the Zimbabweans. And also the Zimbabweans are also one of those diasporas that's very invested in home, of as many people that are out there in the diaspora. And so I turned around and I said, oh my goodness, I couldn't help but over here. I am from Zimbabwe, and you're right. Zimbabweans are one of that diaspora that's very connected to home, very still invested in how things are going at home. So we have to share our stories, whether it's about electricity, whether it's about nonprofit work that we're doing, so we don't continue to replicate the system. As I was saying earlier, the way that I grew up, it was in the way the world is experiencing life now is very different. And I would like for the children growing up in Zimbabwe to have the same experience or even better than I did. So having said that, Zimbabwe has invested a lot in making me successful in the world. So I want us to take that. And a lot of us are doing things back home, but yeah, we have to share our story. That way we don't replicate mistakes, and we can keep growing, and we can keep growing each other and keep investing in each other, and continue to be competitive.
So, Mr. Mdekunya will do a part 2, part 3, so that we can then see where you come into this solar project. Because so far we have Ms. Mutare in South Africa buying the panels, buying the inverter or whatever batteries, and then goes back to Zimbabwe, finds an installer, something goes wrong. The entire investment is tied up in the equipment. And the only way to take the next step is to fix the inverter. And that then costs an additional amount. And
Right.
it takes the time in Zimbabwe where there is no electricity after 1 year. So you may want to say a few words so that we can close on that.
Okay, so what happened is
No, you're not telling your story yet because she's still not there yet.
she's still not there yet.
She
Okay,
still
okay.
doesn't know you.
Oh, she doesn't
She's
know
still
me.
angry that between the installer, the supplier, and myself, that there's something that is not right, because she ended up on the losing end. And
So
it took a time to learn actually that the problem could have been avoidable.
yes.
Let me just say for the record, let me just say this for the record. I'm really not angry at the supplier. I am frustrated.
No, you're entitled to be angry. Don't be apologetic when something goes wrong. It's human nature to be angry. If you're not angry, then you're not human. But when time passes by, you reflect on it. Then you say, actually, there's another narrative that I may not have considered. But to be is to be human.
Right. I'm very mature enough to know that when it comes to the supplier, he and I, first of all, did not do an agreement of if things go wrong, who's responsible for what. Right. So when I went to the supplier and said he had wrong, he felt like I was blamed.
That's right.
He gave me a defective equipment, which I was. So we had a misunderstanding, but I wasn't angry at him. The only frustration that I had was the way that he wasn't saying, "Hey, look, I understand your frustration. I understand what every right to feel." I think I was more frustrated with him as he was trying to be very defensive because he felt I was blaming him, but I wasn't blaming him. I don't think that.
I'm saying it's for now. When things happen, you are entitled to be angry, and when I'm ignorant, I have to blame everybody. When I
Right.
don't know what caused what. So that's what we are saying. At some stage, you are human, you are entitled to say, there is a problem. Either I got a defective product or the installer made a problem, made it problematic. That's all we are saying. But at the end of the day, you didn't get what you thought you could get to solve the problem that was a practical problem. Many people that they don't have electricity when they need it, demand that you may want it, but it's not available. And that's 30 something years, 9 years after independence, that you can arrive to a Zimbabwe that you left and find what you took for granted to no longer be something you can take for granted. So you have to have experienced what you experience for you to appreciate the different changes you went through. So until it's done, it's not done, but otherwise, thank God, it's still, you are committed to the project and it's still in motion, it's work in progress. But how many other people would learn and benefit from just your experience? How to avoid things or how to anticipate things. So
Yeah.
that's why we wanted to leave it, just to get the framework that we need to share experiences. And we all learn from those experiences. There are bad lessons, good lessons, and it evolves from one state of mind to another state of mind.
Right.
Mr. Mdegunye, right now you don't know you don't know the problem. You're just listening from outside. And as a listener, do you think it's important to have shared stories?
Yes, I do. So if I know that you have traveled a certain journey, and that journey you met some lions, and and you tell me that if you travel this other way, then it's a safer journey. It will save all of us some uh, obstacles in the future, right? So it is important to share experiences, I think, and make sure we can avoid losses if we can, um, uh, applying what we have learned from other people's experiences.
So thank you very much. And if you are watching out there, it's just the experiences inform different ways of looking at things. And when people are prepared to download their experiences, then others may learn, because we all don't have solutions. Solar could be one option. Other people have gone through various experiences. Some have sent money and discovered that there's no solar, there's no inverter, there is no battery, there is nothing, there's no panel. And somebody has taken the money, converted it into something else other than what you are looking for. Others will tell the same story that Joy went through, but those stories are hidden, and some people are even shy to talk about the experiences they went through. And when those experiences are told, it means we all benefit. And that's the purpose of this platform, sponsored by Zonful Energy Inc., which is an initiative that Mr. Mudegu started to be able to raise awareness about how best somebody can deliver the promise of solar in Zimbabwe, even without traveling from the United States. How can you best do it? And when we come back, another session, we then look at the financial side, the cost of it. You are coming from a dollar environment. You need rands to be able to transact in South Africa. How best did you do it? And how best you convert? Ms. Mtaki would also share her experiences. She must have brought some money, but there is no budget. There was no budget for these other costs. But life can open more costs than you anticipate. And you end up having a budget that you have not anticipated. People talk about project plans, project budget, business plan, and sometimes you just leave America with no business plan. But ZESA in Zimbabwe can cause you to have a business plan. And then you say, but where? And you proceed to do it, and you end up with a lot of experiences. But at the end of the day, those experiences are what who we are. So thank you very much until we come back to the second part. Thank you both for being part of this shared experience.
Thank you, Mr. Mawel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.